See, I'm going to guess that I'm not alone in this. I'm going to guess that I'm not the only one who was thinking, as I was yesterday walking out of that stadium, all that offense. Look at all that offense. But yeah, look at that defense they were facing. Good afternoon to you. Good Monday afternoon. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is the new Double Shot Show. It comes your way every weekday afternoon. The Steelers did, in fact, score 44 points to the Bengals 38 yesterday over in Ohio. And as much as I'm in disbelief about that, I'm in literal disbelief to an extent, because we also saw the red zone struggles. I understand there was a lot of snow, and we've seen other issues related to the offense. And also, it's been a while. It's been a few years. So when you see Russell Wilson throw for 414 yards, when you see the offense as a whole build up 520 yards, yes, even the most optimistic, upbeat personality is going to look at that and say, come on, man, no way. Upon having 24 hours or so to think about this and to dig through some of the numbers and to watch the game on film, what I'm feeling in this moment is two things. One, yes, of course, the Bengals defense just it's catastrophically bad. It's one of the worst I've seen in a while. It's easily the worst in the NFL. Okay? Now take that and set it off to the side and say to yourself that, okay, listen, out of the 520 yards of offense that the Steelers got, this is incredible, this number. 270 of those yards came after a catch. Think about that for a second. Russ throws for 414. 217 of it came after the catch. This isn't even a group of receivers that's very good at that sort of thing. So take that, the lack of tackling, I don't know if it was a don't give a crap factor or whatever on the Cincinnati side. I also don't care. I don't cover the Bengals. But it was, they're terrible, okay? Now, I can say that and at the same time applaud, in particular, Russ for the stuff that he did, for the reads that he made, for the timing and the pace that he demonstrated. Arthur Smith was telling me coming out of the locker room yesterday, he was saying, look, everyone's going to talk about Russ's stats and everything else here, but pay attention when you actually get a chance to see this thing on film to how Russ was getting to the line, getting all of his guys to the line in a big hurry, sometimes with 20 or more seconds left on the play clock, just so that the Bengals couldn't change up personnel. The Bengals were stuck on the line of scrimmage there. And Russ was from there surveying the scene, and as I'm sure some of you would have noticed, was making some moves, was doing some things where he would change up. Now, I wouldn't call those outright audibles. This wasn't like, going back to the Terry Bradshaw days or something. But what Russ was able to do was he could say, this guy's over here, this guy's over there. I'm not running that play. Let's do a pitch out. I know we hate pitch outs except when they work, and everything works against the Bengals. So they ran the pitch out and they'd get a first down out of it. Russ was able to get 10 different receivers with their hands on the football. All 10 of those guys had at least 10 receiving yards. Wow, that's nuts. That's nuts. We might never see something like that again. So look at the positives. Look at the continuing maturation of this offense as a unit. And look more than anything at Russ and how this is becoming Russ's offense. I'm going to eat so much crow that I won't have room for dessert on the Russ thing. For those of you who've been kind enough to be watching for a long time, I just will, and I couldn't care less. I will stand by really appreciating and respecting what Justin Fields did for this team, the 4-2 start and everything else, I will stand by feeling like it would be nice if the Steelers had a young franchise-type quarterback. But I am not standing by whatever it was that was going through my head when Mike Tomlin made the move, the smart move, the best move for this team this season to try to win the you-know-what when he switched to Russ. That was, well, you've seen it. You've seen it now. When we come back, we're going to be joined by Chris Halleck.
At DK Pittsburgh Sports, we take pride in coverage that connects our city's fans to their favorite teams. Now, that connection's stronger than ever. Introducing our all-new state-of-the-art app. Find expert inside reporting and original podcasts. Check live box scores. Track the latest stats. Chat it up with our community of thousands of fans, all in one place. The new app from DK Pittsburgh Sports. Coverage that connects.
Joined now by Chris Halleck. And Chris, I can talk all day about the offense. We both can. Everyone can. And at the same time, there's 31 points that they allowed. By the way, don't say 38 because there was a pick six. But 31 points is still a lot. I understand the Bengals are good, but ...
Yeah, I mean, you kind of look at what the Steelers have been. They've been pretty consistently the number 2 scoring defense, and now they're tied for 6th. Just because of pretty much one game.
Because of the Bengals.
Right.
Yeah.
And so like you knew Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and Mike Gesicki and like that passing attack, they were going to put up yards, they were going to put up points, but it was about kind of trying to limit that. And they did enough mainly because of takeaways, but you'd like to see them force the Bengals to settle for more field goals than just the amount of times that they got into the end zone. I think that was kind of where they failed mostly, is that they allowed them to get in the end zone just too many times.
Well, they also failed, and I guess this is not a they, this is a he, when you're talking about Joey Porter Jr. being flagged 6 times. Now, 2 of those were declined, but 6 flags thrown on an individual player. That's the kind of thing that, that runs guys out of the league. And I'm not suggesting that's going to happen to Joey, obviously. Okay. But that's the kind of thing where you get marked. And it's one thing for Mike Tomlin to say, all right, well, T. Higgins is what he called him, a goon.
Yeah.
He said, T's a goon. He's gonna do that to you. You can't let him beat you up. But he did. And when you see the types of flags that were being thrown on Joey, I mean that, you were sitting next to me in the press box and remarks whenever he grabbed the dude from behind by the hips, like, no, that's not even a useful penalty. That didn't even accomplish anything.
Yeah. The one in the end zone where the ball was overthrown and he was just, it just seemed more like a panic move more than anything because he was beaten. And so he just decided to tackle him. And like, you can't do that.
He expected something bad to happen.
Yeah.
That's what was going on there. He thought, I'm not getting beat again by this guy. Nope, I'm just taking him down. Never mind where the football is. Never mind making a play or attempting to make a play on the ball. That's when I started to get a little worried about him.
Yeah, there are certain things that you see where he's trying to do what a lot of cornerbacks try to do, which those I don't necessarily fault him for because every cornerback tries it. Like the one where he got called where he kind of put his left arm around on the shoulder and just did a little tug right at the end. And sometimes corners will get away with that. With certain officiating crews, they will get away with that because it's subtle. But the egregious ones, like the one we just talked about, those have to be eradicated. But the problem is that the more he gets penalized, the more officials are going to be watching him, which is why the other one in the end zone, which I still don't think it was pass interference, he will get that flagged because of the reputation that he's going to be getting. So
that's right. And I brought up with Joey himself after the game there in the locker room. Here, just watch.
Joe, are the refs looking at you differently, or do you feel like they're keeping a closer eye on you?
Definitely, I feel like that. Some of those calls, I feel like I'm not doing nothing the average DB is doing, but I got that target on my back, and clearly I just got to keep working.
Now, Chris, you can see from his demeanor there in the answer, never mind the answer itself, that he's, I'm there. My coach tells me, which, by the way, Mike Tomlin did after the game, told him he's fine. Just shrug it off. Don't worry about it. His guys around him, Deshaun Elliott's on this side, Dante Jackson's on that side, chirping through the whole interview session when I'm talking to him, like, yeah, Joe, yeah, Joe, come on, Joe. Okay, they have to do that. But when he gets into that classroom this week, they don't have to do that. That's when you got to cut him apart. Not in a nasty way, but you got to show him like the stuff that you're talking about. This Joe, no, man, just don't do that. Do this.
Right. But this does kind of fall into the Mike Tomlin cliche or the Tomlinism of I'd rather say whoa than sick 'em. Right.
Yep. It really does.
Yeah, he'd rather Joey be over aggressive and have to pull the reins back a little bit than to tell him to, dude, you got to go get the guy. You got to be physical. And that's what Joey Porter Jr. is. And the one thing I haven't seen a lot of this, but I don't want fans to go there or just in general is to think that Tomlin is just being easy on him because he's Joey's son.
Oh, please.
I don't think that's.
If anything, it's the opposite.
Yeah, because
he's going to be more comfortable saying anything to him because he's been around him his whole life.
Right. But we're also kind of seeing similar, not to change subjects because we can stick on Joey, obviously, but Tomlin's kind of doing the same thing with Broderick Jones. Everything's fine. He's a young player. Everything's going to work out. He's doing the same thing with Joey here, too. So it's pretty consistent with how he's handling his younger players. Now, there definitely is stuff that needs to be cleaned up because we know what Joey's capable of. We saw it during his entire rookie year and at moments during this year, too. But he's starting to kind of get that reputation that you want to kind of nip in the bud right now.
He is, but the reason that his job isn't in any sort of jeopardy, and the reason I see some people already asking about Corey Trice and whatever else, easy here, okay? To find yourself a corner who genuinely embraces the challenge of who does Seattle have? Oh yeah, DK Metcalf. I'm on him.
Yeah.
Who does Cincinnati have? Jamar Chase. And right down the list, he lives for this. This kid lives for this. He doesn't fear it. He doesn't back off from it. And again, if you look at that demeanor in the little clip that I just showed you of my talk with him, he's not exactly rattled. Okay, and I don't believe that's an act. Okay, I just think that he's that tough. Now, overall, though, as much as the focus is going to be on Joe this week, fair or not, they still didn't exactly stop much. They got to Joe Burrow a couple times, and as you mentioned, when they did, they made such significant impacts out of getting to him that it kind of hid the fact that they really didn't get near him that much. I wasn't wild about this team's pass rush, but yet if you look at it after the fact, everyone's going to go, what are you talking about? 2 strip sacks. Of course they were great. Yeah, they were fantastic. No, they weren't actually.
Yeah, I do think I'm actually in the middle of rewatching the game for the 3rd time already today. And every time they were close to Burrow, I actually kind of tipped my hat to Burrow a little bit more because his ability to move in the pocket,
it was impressive.
He might be at the absolute highest level he's ever been in terms of his mobility inside the pocket. His ability to keep his eyes downfield and evade pressure at the same time, staying in the pocket. I don't think anybody in the league is better at it right now than Burrow is. You can make a case for a couple of guys, but Burrow is right up there with the very best in the game. So part of that is just that dude's just really, really, really good. But at the same
just a little
at the same time, yes, they need to make sure, okay, if you're only rushing 4, even if they have 5 guys going out for routes, you got to make sure, okay, if you're rushing 4, you got 7 back, whether it's zone coverage or man coverage, you have the advantage in coverage. And the 4-man rush was creating pressure and forcing Burrow to move around or even escape. So they just have to button those things up in the back end with their coverages and be able to do it without committing a lot of penalties.
Now, we didn't see a whole lot of changes defensively. We didn't see them blitz, for example. I don't know that we're going to see them blitz. I'm really starting to reach that point where I don't even know that that's going to be a weapon that's in their arsenal. by season's end. And if they do bring it out late, it would shock the heck out of everybody. But I did see TJ Watt moving.
Mm-hmm.
I did see TJ Watt, not just on the right side, saw him once in the middle, saw him once effectively in the middle, I should add. And, it's something, you're starting to see, all right, listen, we're not just going to let you take away the best player on the field. We're not just going to wait to see what Nick Herbig and then once he comes back, Alex Highsmith can do while you eat up TJ. The Bengals did put extra guys on TJ. They did chip TJ. They didn't adjust whenever he moved, but maybe that's your first hint to start doing some different things to be a lot less predictable.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, the more Cam Hayward plays and the more he can create in the middle, he might not be playing. We were talking about this yesterday. He might be playing his best football of his career, and that could be, especially since he's still doing this and we're in December now. I understand it's the beginning of December. There's still 5 games left, but it seems like he's getting stronger. He manhandled the guys in front of him quite a bit yesterday. And that to me is a big thing because that helps the guys on the edges. That helps Watt. That helps whether it's Herbig or Highsmith or Preston Smith, whoever it is. If you can create that interior pressure, especially when you're playing Lamar Jackson, especially when you're playing Joe Burrow, or if you have to play Josh Allen, or when they play Patrick Mahomes on Christmas, having that pressure be able to come from all angles, from whether it be from the edge or up the middle, that's big in terms of making a quarterback uncomfortable. And I'm still blown away by what Hayward's doing.
He's doing some freakish things, and I'm not even saying that in the context of his age, because I have a feeling that's going to be one of the things that comes up is, oh yeah, he's doing great things for his age. No, he's just, you could end that sentence, put the period after the word things, because that's what he's bringing right now. Defensively, also wasn't crazy about the inside linebacker play. Thought Patrick Queen kind of lapsed a little bit from the heights that he'd hit in the previous 2-3 games. But overall, I don't know, man. Mostly, I want to do the same thing in analyzing the Steelers' defense that I do with their offense, which is to understand that Cincinnati was a big factor in both. And that Burrow and company do this to everybody. There are no exceptions to this. And I don't think the Steelers are good enough where they would have just been some sort of stirring all of a sudden exception. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And see, the big thing is that when you're talking about what the Steelers did, okay, the defense gave up a lot, but the offense also provided a lot, which that's good. You were able to go up against Joe Burrow and outscore him. That's big. But if they have to play Josh Allen in the playoffs, or when they play Patrick Mahomes on Christmas, those defenses are a lot better than what Cincinnati has, a lot better. And so they have to figure out ways to score against the really good defenses too, while also trying to keep Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. Because the one thing, like when we talk about Patrick Queen, I thought it was just a mismatch with him on Mike Gesicki, but he's going to have to, Travis.
He's got to be that guy because Travis Kelce's coming.
Dalton Kincaid in Buffalo. Again, we talked about
Mark Andrews is coming. Yeah. They're coming. Yeah, there's no question about that. By the way, Chris, me, you, and 9 people I could pull off the street are better than the Bengals defense. Can take that one to the bank. When we come back, J1Q.
Safety is a habit. Gun safety and responsible storage are no different. Help prevent gun accidents, misuse, and theft. Keep firearms safe and secure when not in use. For safe storage options, visit projectchildsafe.org.
And for today's J1Q, let's head down under to Alex Hughes in Sydney, Australia.
Hey, DK. One thing I noticed against the Browns, especially, and a little bit against the Bengals, is that it seemed like whenever Najee Harris was running the ball, the defense seemed to pretty much know it was coming, and we're getting a lot more penetration compared to when Jaylen Warren was on the field. Is that because you think they know that Najee is going to be running it and Jalen's more of a receiving threat, or is it something to do with the play calling? It's just very frustrating watching Najee run into a wall over and over.
He's done some of that. I think that's been true of all of the running backs to an extent when the offensive line hasn't played well. And Alex, is as much as I'm not just inclined, but doing in giving out praise to Arthur Smith and to Russell Wilson for the game plan, for the in-game adjustments to that game plan, and to a lot of the things that were done really well, specifically right at the line of scrimmage by Russ. I also really hope that it's noticed that the Steelers' offensive line did pretty well. They really did. There were more holes. There were more opportunities for the running backs to do what they do best, meaning if it's Najee plowing up the middle, if it's Jalen spinning off. We saw Cordero Patterson a couple of times do that thing where he goes out to the right. Boy, he does this well. I need you to follow him here on this one. That thing where he goes way out, he looks like he's going to try to hit the edge, but then just darts back in like violently. Man, that's a different look for this backfield. And having Patterson back to offer that is a nice thing. But there also was this, in addition to everything that I just mentioned. That predictability that you're referencing, Alex, wasn't really there. In fact, and Najee himself talked about this yesterday in Cincinnati, where if you look at the way the Steelers were structured, the way they came out, they were still going to run the ball. But the Bengals just said, no, you're not. And they put everybody up at the line of scrimmage and said, you're not going to do this. Well, okay, guess what ended up happening? Just like that. First down, first snap of the game. What happened? Russ drops back to pass. Hey, if you want to do that, we'll do that too. The Steelers ended up throwing 3/4 of the time. The Steelers were throwing with the lead in the fourth quarter when they arguably could have benefited more from just chewing up clock. Why? Because the Bengals never changed. The Cincinnati scheme kept 9, sometimes 10 guys. They had a cover 0 on one play. They just had the entire franchise lined up. And yet the Steelers got the job done because I think, and again, listen, I get it. The Bengals defense is terrible. Okay. Just deal with this in and of itself. Okay. They were able to execute what they wanted, when they wanted, in the way that they wanted. And that's going to serve them well, first and foremost, this coming weekend against the Browns. Because there was a lot of stuff that was left on the field in Cleveland, not just in the snow, but in the first half when there was no snow. The Steelers are going to be a more complete, more flexible team whenever they face the Browns. And that, I think, is going to set them up to be that much stronger whenever they get into the Philadelphia, Baltimore, Kansas City phase of the schedule. I really feel like this was a stride forward. I really do, Alex. And I think that applies to the running game as well. But I'm going to say this one more time, omit the offensive line from this conversation. We all were crushing them for 2-3 straight weeks. All right. Well, they went out, they got their jobs done. They really did. I appreciate the question. I appreciate everybody checking out the new Double Shot. We'll be back with another one tomorrow. Ooh.